You see, for like the last 10 years or so, it's been pretty obvious, let's say 80% of the time, who's gonna win the championship. Of course, there was that period where Nico Rosberg beat Lewis Hamilton in equal machinery.
It's Britney, bitch.
Yes! World champion!
And also that time where Sebastian Vettel faked and thought that he might win a championship in a Ferrari. But that didn't end up too well.
Sake. Sorry, guys.
But over the last 10 years, it's been pretty obvious. It's either been Max Verstappen,
eat, sleep, win, repeat,
or Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton, as he is now, crosses the line and wins!
And I think we have all heard those anthems a tad bit too much. But 2024 is a different year. This year is crazy. Things have been going down left and right, and it's not as night and day as it was for like the last 10 years who's gonna win the championship. This year, it's a little misty, it's a little foggy. It's very, very unknown, the constructors and the drivers. Certain teams are fakes and frauds on their team, hammering them down into the ground like an anchor, and other teams, other teams. So that then leaves us with one question: who will win the championship? Now, don't get me wrong, I've been wrong before, a lot of times. Now, with Monaco literally around the corner, we already know that every single Ferrari fan is going to be crying because Charles Leclerc is most likely going to bin it into the wall at least twice in that weekend. You see, over the years and years and years that Formula 1 has been operating and been running, each team has always tried to get the two best drivers on the grid or best suit for, their needs of a team. At one point in history, Senna and Prost were in the same team. Now, agreed, that didn't end too well.
This is the opportunity that Senna's looking for, and he's going through, out!
But with Sergio Perez being in that Red Bull, it isn't ending too well for him, well, as it is already. If a team has the most dominant car in history, you'd expect both drivers to be battling, contending for the championship, like Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton did in 14, 15, 16, and honestly so on and so forth. But Sergio Perez, for the last 4 years, hasn't been able to do anything. His biggest accomplishment, a win there, Mark Webber screaming that Hamilton's going off, and then managing to win because neither Verstappen's in the race or Hamilton. Now, if that's what you want to be remembered for in Formula 1, being the worst driver in the best team, then honestly, you keep doing what you're doing. But at the moment where you are, you will never win this championship. You already have half of the points that your teammate has, and it's not even been half of the season. And you know what? You might not win the Drivers' Championship ever, or heck, not this year, but actually ever. There is one thing that you will be leading for a while, and probably over multiple seasons and multiple years and multiple decades, and probably over multiple centuries. Something that Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, they would never be able to achieve this. I'm talking about the Destructors' Championship. You see, when there's a championship battle between two teammates, they're threats to each other. But the only threat that Sergio Perez is threat to the marshals, because you never know which barrier he could hit. Now, it's cool and all discussing who could be the world champion, who could be this, that, or the other, but I think what we all want is a championship battle. If you actually want to see a championship battle, like and subscribe, otherwise it will not happen. I think Charles Leclerc will be a world champion. 2024, I don't think that will be his year though. Throughout the whole year, not just Charles Leclerc, but Ferrari, the entire organization, has been slightly inconsistent. Now, they might have gotten the 1-2 in Australia.
A Ferrari 1-2, headed by Carlos Sainz.
Charles Leclerc might have won in Monaco.
Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix!
And obviously there's been a lot of podiums since then. And I'm not just saying inconsistent because of Canada, but there's been races where it's just felt like you're not on the same echelon caliber as, say, McLaren or Red Bull. I still think that Ferrari may be slightly behind, and if certain mistakes in the team or whatever is happening, like in Canada, start to creep in more often, it just shows that Ferrari still yet aren't ready. Fred Vasseur is in the process of rebuilding that entire team, and right now, of course, in Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is the person who I have most faith in. He's battled for the championship at the start of 2022, but then the car fell off, and emotions were quite negatively high. And if I was recording this last year or the year before, of course there'd be the comments of, through all of the pressure that is on him, can he actually pull it off? I mean, we've seen in pretty much every single Monaco race that there has been some sort of issue. Hasn't been just Monaco, there's been mistakes upon even more mistakes coming from that driver of Charles Leclerc. But I think this year, he has actually managed to fix up. I don't remember him crashing out at all. And I think he proved to everybody that he can keep calm in intense situations, just like in Monaco. He might be P2 in the championship right now, but I had to stop myself because I'm going to spoil everything. And all I'm going to say is this year, I don't think it's his year. Carlos Sainz is pretty similar to Sergio Perez. The only difference being is that Carlos Sainz can actually win races, stand on the podium honorably and on multiple occasions throughout the year without having the fastest car on the grid. And when he does crash, he can still somehow out-qualify his teammate and most of the time still pull up a good performance. Now, agreed, he isn't what Charles Leclerc is. Let's say, what, 2-3 tenths off Charles Leclerc on average. And I guess if you're that behind Charles Leclerc and Charles Leclerc isn't even ready for a championship at the moment, then 100% Carlos Sainz isn't ready either. He's a bit inconsistent here and there and doesn't show peak performances just like Charles Leclerc does. Charles Leclerc overall just a bit better. And I'm not saying that Carlos Sainz doesn't have standout performances because Singapore last year.
Carlos Sainz, tactical brilliance. Carlos Sainz, the winner of the Singapore Grand Prix.
Congratulations. Australia this year, and this, that, and the other. But overall, throughout a championship, it's just like you need to be up there every single weekend. Of course, all of you Sainz enjoyers, Spanish fans, Spanish people will be saying, how dare you say that about Carlos Sainz? Carlos Sainz is the greatest in Ferrari. You see, if he would be the greatest, then number one, he'd have a world championship, he'd win more races, and he wouldn't be getting dropped. For the last couple years, we've been living in Max Verstappen's Formula One world realm, whatever you want to call it. Every single race you pull up, you start watching it either IRL or online, and you already know that you're going to be listening to that nice composition of music, which we all know is the Dutch anthem at the end. He's gotten bored celebrating after every race. It's gotten a tad boring for him. The difference between, say, Lando Norris celebrating, George Russell celebrating, and then you got Verstappen celebrating, which is just a bit bland and boring. And let's not even argue, if Max Verstappen is given the Haas car, he will still put up the best performances that he possibly can. He will contend for the championship in an RB, in a Williams, in a Sauber, because if not, his dad will literally kill him, stab him, murder him, and after that probably go get some hookers. But Verstappen will not let anybody down. Now, I'm saying all of this just like Max Verstappen isn't leading the championship, isn't leading the Constructors' Championship, isn't winning a lot of races.
The defending champion on top, Max Verstappen wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It's another Grand Prix victory. Wins from pole, the Japanese Grand Prix.
He's doing all of that, but the downfall of him, his Hamasha, is the team. It's slowly falling apart piece by piece. The constructors, that might not be won because of Sergio Perez. The drivers might not be won because of the car. It's looking a little stiff. The car isn't 90 years old going for a jog. It's meant to be nimble, quick, but it isn't such. Yui's leaving. Horner is under investigation. Helmut Marko is doing whatever he's been doing for his whole life, which probably isn't too legal. But their lead in the championship, their lead in the points, their lead in research and development, their lead in the car skillability who knows, they might not even have the fastest car at the moment. At the end of the day, you kind of have to have faith in Verstappen winning because that's what he does best. But at the same time, you might not. 2009 was a sad and interesting season for multiple reasons. Not just all of the bad and unfortunate things that happened, But Jenson Button and that whole Brawn era, they led and pretty much won every single race at the start, similar to Red Bull right now, and then throughout the year, getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Not even worse and worse, but other teams were catching up. Double diffuser this, double diffuser that, getting better and better and better, to the point where they got swallowed up by the field and weren't that good. And say the same thing happens with Red Bull and Verstappen this year. Will Verstappen still be able to maintain his lead in the championship, or will he tumble down the field? Keep in mind there were less races then, point gap was bigger, now it's only 50 points with so many races left to go. Honestly, I think Verstappen will need some insane luck, just like Button did when his car was about to blow up, if you turned on the electricity because it was in the rain for that long. Let me paint you a picture, just like Bob Ross. Let me take you back just a couple years. The year's 2007, Lewis Hamilton entered the sport as a rookie into McLaren, gets a championship contending car, and unfortunately doesn't win. The next year, the car is also fantastic, and the difference is he actually managed to win this year in a McLaren in his second year.
Is that clock? Is that clock going slowly?
It is,
That's
it's clock. Oh my goodness me, Hamilton's back in position again to become the 2008 Formula One World Champion, Lewis Hamilton.
And we all know what Lewis Hamilton has achieved since then. Fast forward to 2023, Oscar Piastri, a rookie, enters McLaren to a team that throughout the season managed to be a championship contending car nearer the end of the season. Obviously, weren't even close to winning the championship, but you know, the car was good. And now 2024, they have a championship winning car, and you got Oscar Piastri in his second year. Can he replicate what Hamilton did all those years back? No, I don't think so. Sorry to disappoint, but I think that Oscar Piastri this year has equal chances to win the championship as, say, Logan Sargent, Nico Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu. Very, very slim, very, very minimal. It will not happen. Part of that is he isn't up to speed at the moment. Lando Norris is more consistent, and the team has probably more faith in Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri at the moment is happy to be a secondary driver, help Lando Norris win the championship, and help McLaren win the Constructors. I think that dynamic duo of Lando and Piastri is perfect. It's a clear 1-2 for now. That is, who knows, we might fast forward a couple years and Oscar Piastri might be swinging hands just like Mark Webber did back in those days of Vettel and Webber. It's not that he crashes out a lot, just like Daniel Ricciardo did. Or it's not like he's awfully slow, just like Daniel Ricciardo was. It's just the team is prioritizing Lando. Just like Red Bull are prioritizing Verstappen, except for McLaren actually care about Oscar Piastri. And Oscar Piastri actually wants to help the team out to win. But there's no doubt about it, his time will come eventually, but not this season. Now don't get me wrong, honourable mentions are pretty pathetic, because at the end of the day, I could go up to Logan Sargent and say, I honourably mention you to be the world champion. You could be the world champion if you had a good car, but you don't, so you're not going to be the world champion. It's all a bit stupid. One, because at the end of the day, you don't know how Logan Sargent is going to perform in a good car, and will he actually compete for championship wins, podiums? I mean, it's pretty obvious with Logan Sargent, he won't be able to do that because half the time in the worst car, he's in the wall. But I think it's a different story for Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. Both of them, if given a good car, they will be able to compete for the championship. And this season, they've been both good, but their car hasn't. Of course, both cars are improving race by race by race, but 150 points back, I'm not sure about that one, Chief. Aston Martin, they've never won a championship, and I think Mercedes, they've forgotten how to win a championship because they've been washed for quite a while. All of those celebrations that Hamilton did and Alonso did, I think they've also forgotten the sensation of winning because it's been that long. Yes, there's also George Russell who is in the scrap here and there, but my guy, too many mistakes. He could have won the race in Canada, but no, decides to nearly bin it.
Focus, George, focus.
Could have won the race in Singapore. No, actually decides to bin it. The first couple races in his Mercedes stint in 2022, Mr. Consistency was his name. He was arguably at that time the best driver on the grid. Consistent. He was finishing in the top 5 every single race for like half the season, until he wasn't, and then he got the name of a mass terrorist. But I guess he's always been crashing Mercedes, whether it be Imola 2021 where he crashed into a Mercedes, or whether it be other times where he's crashed or just made vital mistakes, which honestly are inexcusable for someone like him. F2 champion, is in Mercedes, good driver, can compete for championships, but too many mistakes. He's like Charles Leclerc, but in 2022. 2-1. I think George Russell hasn't spent enough time at a top team to be able to know what the pressure feels like and all of that around that. Leclerc has done it for ages, and, you know, he's pretty much ready, and then there's somebody else. Done, no way, oh my god. Is it that obvious? But someone who I will back to win the championship this year will be Lando Norris. Now, saying I would have been recording this at the start of the year, of course, Verstappen's winning everything, because that's what he did in 2023, and who's going to say that his form will stop? His form hasn't stopped, but the car has. And I don't think Lando Norris would be at the front of anybody's mind, because the times where he could have won a race, he didn't.
And Hamilton takes the lead of the race as Lando Norris slides off the track.
Skill issue.
But things have changed this year a lot. Podiums upon wins. Most races, McLaren are coming to the track with upgrades. Over the next couple races, they have upgrades upon upgrades upon upgrades upon even more upgrades. And who's going to say that their car isn't the fastest at the moment? And if they keep on upgrading, of course, it's going to get faster. Unless you do what Aston Martin did last year, where they kept upgrading and the car kept going back. But I think McLaren are a bit smarter and a bit better than that. McLaren might not be leading the constructors, they might not be leading the drivers, but yet again I'm going to bring it down to that 2009 Button season where other drivers could have won the championship in the last race. They didn't, but they could have. And I don't think it will take much longer for Lando Norris to be leading the championship. It seems like most races Lando Norris has a chance to win at the moment, or be in the top 3. Most of the time, he is in the top 3, firmly securing a top 3 finish. And the times where he hasn't won the race, he's been, what, 7/10 behind Verstappen, he's been screwed over by a safety car, or things just haven't gone his way. McLaren, similar to Red Bull, have a clear 1-2 dynamic at the moment, and they're focusing everything to help Lando Norris secure as many points, and Oscar Piastri as well, but help Lando Norris win. And honestly, I believe that he can win. Throughout the whole of last year, he was fighting at the top, and he developed some skills to drive at the top with Verstappen, the Ferraris, the Mercs. And this year, I think it's his time. I think he's going to cop that fat W, dethrone Verstappen, and make us hear God Save the King more often, rather than, I'm not even going to attempt the Dutch anthem, because I have no clue what they're saying, but I know it off by heart. He might not be winning every single race, but he's at the top every single race and, you know, stacking up points upon points upon points every single race. Eventually, you're going to be better off than Verstappen being good one race and being absolutely dog shite to the other. Not Verstappen, but Red Bull in general. Anyway, let me know down in the comments, do you guys think that Lando will win the championship, or who else might win? Let me know down in the comments and watch it there. You might as well like and subscribe. Don't know why you wouldn't. Kind of a fake and a fraud if you don't. Have a safe and fantastic rest of your day. Don't die, because then you can't watch other videos, and then everybody's sad, and then I'm super sad, and you're probably family sad, and everyone else. Anyway, peace.